Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Today I want to share with you guys my SSG Trunks list. And it's actually kind of budget, which is really nice for a lot of players. This is a deck that I was very interested in when it was revealed for set 16, but honestly I didn't give it much attention because when I was playing black in set 16, I was playing a lot of Gogeta Xeno, but now I've actually worked on this list over the weekend with my teammates. I was testing it a bit, so I feel like I have some interesting points for this deck, some things in here that you probably haven't seen in other Trunks builds. So kind of want to show you where my head's at on this, what I'm playing. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, many ways to do so down in the description, of course. But if you guys want to buy or pre-order any of the cards we talk about in today's video, or buy any trading card game cards for that matter, use my link to TCG Player. It really does help me out a lot. Anyways, let's get started. So I'm actually going to go to the full deck view because I feel like it's just more conducive to how I'm trying to talk about this. So when you're looking at Trunks, right, it hasn't done quite as well as Gogeta Xeno has done in this meta. And I think that's mostly because Gogeta Xeno is the faster deck. It kind of just fills that role of aggro. And the main thing is it can present thwarting on turn 1, which is pretty broken, to be honest. This deck can't really do that. I mean, you technically can, but if you're ever able to do that, it means you're probably pitching a fair amount of cards out of your hand and you're not drawing a card on fusion like Gogeta Xeno does. So this is more of like a mid-rangey, slower version of the deck. I really enjoy playing mid-rangey style of decks, so that's why I like this. Also, I think it's fairly budget because if you swap out this Pan SCR for, let's say, Heroine's Lineage, you're probably chopping like 200 bucks already off this estimated price. And I think this estimated price is already a little bit inflated. Like in this build, just for the view, for example, I have the SPR Power Awakened here. And if you got the regular SR version, I think it's like $6-7 bucks. So that would knock down the price as well. A lot of reprints for this deck, like Thwarting's been reprinted, Beyond the Limits has been reprinted, and so has Fighting Against Fate. So that's all great. Like this can be a really good budget alternative for a type of black thwarting deck if you wanted to play that. I mean, I didn't do any calculations, but I think it'll probably run you like less than 100 bucks, especially if you can get someone at your locals to kind of just give you the common cards, like, and then you have to just order a few things here or there, like some of the SRs and some of the reprints. Like, I think that's a really great way to go about this. But anyways, let's get into the deck itself. So we're playing 4 Vegeta Super Combo and 4 Goku True Fighting Spirit. So, I mean, these cards are pretty obvious to play in a deck like this. True Fighting Spirit still being the best Goku you can play, even though it's been errated. And these are our only real fusion material for thwarting. Like I said, we're not playing turn 1 thwarting like Gogeta Xeno is. We're pretty much playing this turn 3 usually, sometimes turn 2, and that's only if we don't want to play our Unison on 2, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And this will be like a somewhat how to play guide. I will talk about, what I'm doing on each specific turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, all that good stuff. So speaking of turn 2, we want to typically play our Supreme Kai of Time Unison. But sometimes we won't play it on 2, especially if we feel that our opponent can remove it pretty easily. But, I mean, if we played a Gohan blocker on 1 and can awaken on 2 and play another Gohan blocker, this card's usually pretty safe. So then those are cases that I will tap out for it. But yeah, so this gets our warp setup, which does kind of suck in comparison to Gogeta that we need other cards to set up our warp. But, I mean, we're still getting the benefit of drawing a bigger hand, which is nice because our leader, especially our awaken turn, we'll activate main in our leader to draw 2, and then we'll awaken, and then we'll swing, draw another 2, and set up our warp that way. So that's drawing a lot of cards. And on top of that, every time we play a battle card out of our warp, Supreme Kai of Time Unison is drawing a card. So that's one big benefit we get over Gogeta Xeno, is that we draw a much bigger hand, especially because Gogeta Xeno's draw power was severely hit on one of the more recent ban lists where they hit the Trunks Overwhelm that would add to your hand for free if you warped it, as well as the Black Smoke Dragon Unison that Gogeta Xeno can no longer play. So one of the big pros to this over Gogeta Xeno is definitely a big hand size. But anyways, moving along, going to our main turn 1 play, we want Gohan challenging a Demon God. We'll use our leaders activate main, warp this, then pay a black to play it, and then we warp up to 3 cards from top of our deck. So again, setting up our warp. Skipping ahead a bit, I am playing 4 copies of Goten challenging a Demon God. Now, I tried so hard to not have to play this card, but unfortunately you do. You need it because of that warping 3 effect. It's just worse than Gohan in every single way, but we need it to set up that warp. The Spirit Boost crit honestly never comes up, and it's kind of annoying. Like, you can pull it off sometimes against slower decks that aren't awakening super fast, but most decks in this meta are awakening by turn 2, so yeah, we're just playing it because we kind of have to. It does kind of suck that 4 cards out of our deck just, feel really bad, but we got to play it. Anyways, moving along. So we have 3 copies of SS3 Trunks challenging a Demon God. This card's actually super good, but only 3 copies because it is a bit more restricted. It has a limit 1, Spirit Boost 1, so we got to make sure we have our Unison in play. But this is a 1-drop 20k double striker, and this does help apply a lot of pressure. So I like this card quite a lot. One card I'm playing that I don't think you'll see in most other SSG decks, at least I haven't seen it, is Birth of a Crimson Hero. I love this card in this deck. The main thing here is the Activate Battle. The Activating's okay. I wish it searched a Unison, but it doesn't. So the Activate Battle, limit 1, burst 1. If your leader card's a black Trunks Xeno only card, and you place this card at the bottom of your deck from your warp, choose up to one of your leader cards, a Unison card, and it gets plus 5,000 power for the battle. So just by getting this card into your warp, you're getting a free 5k combo, which is so good offensively and defensively. I have absolutely loved this card. Like, your opponent swings 15 tier 15 with their leader, you just literally stop it for free. Like, this card feels so good. I was playing 4 for a while, but I'm playing 3 now because, like, I don't want to draw a ton of them. I just pretty much want to warp them. So at 3 copies, I mean, for a free 5k, I've liked this a lot. And then, of course, we have 4 Power Awaken and 4 Thwarting. I mean, this is like the best like black boss monster duo you can be playing right now. So in this deck, typically on 3, we can play both of these. We can, tap 2 for power. That'll trigger our Unison to draw a card, and then we can follow that up with a Thwarting. You have to just make sure that, it's safe to tap out before you do that. And, this deck offers you a lot in the form of, like, efficient combo power. And I was talking about that with Birth of a Crimson Hero, but there are more cards that do that. But anyways, 4 copies of Beyond All Limits. So you'll notice, you've probably seen it on other lists, I'm not playing SS4 Vegeta Feigned Greeting. Now, here's my thing. I love this game. This is like a side job for me as well, like making content and whatnot. But I refuse to pay $40 a copy for SS4 Vegeta Feigned Greeting. So I built the deck to not need it. And honestly, I haven't missed it. Again, mostly because we're not playing Thwarting until at least turn 3. So I don't really miss the extra fusion materials. Like, over the course of 3 turns, I have plenty of time to set up my warp, right? So just playing the 4 Beyond All Limits because it helps you pick up a lot of useful cards from your warp. And Overwhelm 6 is super easy in this deck thanks to Power Awaken. So yeah, I mean, that's a personal choice. I wanted to build the deck to not have to use that SS4 Vegeta because I didn't want to pay the price for it. So I don't think you have to pay it either, honestly. I've liked this deck the way it is. Anyways, moving along, we have 4 copies of Supreme Kai of Time, Guardian of Space Time. This is another card that helps us a lot with combo efficiency, and I think this is starting to become a mainstay in Gogeta Xeno decks, and it should be in this deck as well, because the combo effect. If you have 5 or less cards in your hand when this card's using a combo, this card gets plus 5,000 combo for the battle. It's just so high value, whether you're starting to run low on resources defensively and now you start getting extra super combos, or you're just pushing for game and then you run to those last couple cards in your hand and all of a sudden you're dropping like 3 10k combos on a card. Your opponent is taking that damage and you're probably winning the game. Like, this card is just so high value. It's on color for this type of deck. Unfortunately, we can't really play it by milling for the most part, but it's still incredibly good. There is a weird instance that we can play this card if we happen to mill it off of Birth of a Crimson Hero, but I mean, that doesn't come up often. But when it does, I mean, you just feel like the biggest high roller on the face of the planet. But anyways, then we have 3 copies of Power Burst. This is the negate I'm playing, sort of like Support of the Dark Empire. I mean, I know most decks are playing the blocker negates, but this has the synergy of picking up Guardian of Space Time, which just gives us even more combo power, which is incredible. 2 copies of Champa. Just want to make sure we can end out games. This is a true mid-range deck, so Champa ends games for us quite a bit. 1 copy of Pan SCR. Again, if you want to make this more budget, definitely switch over to a Heroine's Lineage, but this is great. I also think that Supreme Kai of Time SCR might be a really good option into going into next format, because there are lots of decks that rely on their Unisons, and also like a lot of decks are just putting out really wide boards, so having mass removal is never a bad thing. 2 copies Super Common Mal. I just want to be able to stop floodgates like Robotic Riposte, Topo, Green Boo, all that good stuff. 2 Fighting Against Fates, just one of the best overwhelms you can play. And then we're playing 3 copies of Tenacious. Okay, so before I was playing Tenacious, I was actually playing 4 copies of the Pan Negate that came out with this deck. And that card already wasn't the best because it didn't actually stop the attack you use it on, and it only floodgated battle cards. So your opponent could play around it by just attacking with all their battle cards and then save their Unison and their leader attack for last. And that's also the same way they can play around Pan SCR. So that was their real ideal way of doing that. But since Overwhelm 6 is so easy in this deck and Red is so popular playing Vegeta Resolve Renewed, making that Pan even worse, I wanted to play Barlock the Tenacious, and it just makes sense in this deck. Same amount of energy, but you get a 25k beefy attack out of it, and your opponent can only attack 1 more time with battle cards for the turn. Like, Nimbus types effects like Forbidden Power and Yellow and stuff like that are so good in this meta, so this card, I've absolutely loved it. And then this is a personal tech of mine, S3 Vegeta Unstoppable Evolution. I've been playing against Yellow Trunks a fair amount. That deck's been picking up a lot of popularity, and their Trunks blocker is really annoying to deal with. 2 of this might be a lot, but I mean, it's just general removal, which is really good. Cost 2, it's a little expensive, but I mean, you're paying 1 extra energy to be able to remove something with barrier, so that feels decent. And then 1 copy of King Vegeta, A Kingdom Lost. So this is another cool card you can actually pick up with Beyond All Limits if you happen to warp it early on, because like Beyond All Limits will start a lot of your turns and all your energy is available. So if the circumstances are correct, you can play A Kingdom Lost, and this can actually be a really nice Deadly Defender type of card that doesn't allow your opponent to go directly in at your leader, and now they're attacking in what's in a lot of instances a 20k battle card. So that's great. And then of course, you know, poking cards out of their hand, or you know, swinging for a 19k double strike with barrier, absolutely incredible. I love it as a 1-of. It just makes perfect sense because again, if you warp it, you pick it up, you can play it. It's really, really good. And then 2 copies of Secret ID, a more recent edition. Sometimes I don't want to pay energy, I have to kill things, especially if it's a bunch of little things, and that's exactly where Secret ID comes in. So this is the main deck that I've gotten to over the course of the weekend. I really, really like this. Again, I think it's awesome that this can be a pretty nice budget deck for players. Just dropping down here to the side deck, some cards I was obviously considering, like you should definitely all be considering in black decks with Saiyan leaders. Vegeta True Fighting Spirit. I didn't feel the need to play more Vegetas in my main deck because with 4 and 4 it makes the fusion materials even, but of course you probably want to side Vegeta if you're possibly going up against blue decks. And then Koitsukai is actually a card you can very easily main deck, and what's really cool about it is if you happen to warp it, you can always add it back to your drop with Trunks Power Awakened, and then just resolve it from your drop area, which is really cool. Once it's removed from the game though, it's removed from the game, but if you happen to warp it with your leader effect or any of your other random warping effects, you can just put it back in your drop with power, and that's really, really good. But anyways, guys, that's the list I was playing. Of course, I'll post this link down in the pinned comment, so check back later for that. I'll post that when I get a chance. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this list. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.